Now if I take this simple question, QPLC had 1 million shares in issue as at 1st January 2008. On 30th June 2008, company made a right issue of 1 for 3 basis at a price of 2.8 per share. The cum right price of the shares was 3.6. Earning attributable shareholder is 400,000. So if I go through the question again in detail, you have 1 million shares at the beginning of the year, and then you have issued additional shares in the form of right issue, which is 1 for 3. So every share, that 3 shares you are having, you are getting an additional 1 share. So if you come into the working, 1 million shares divided by 3 into 1 will give you the right issue shares, and that with that you can get we can get the additional number of shares after the right issue. So in order to do any right issue question, we need to work out the theoretical exercise price. Now what is the theoretical exercise price? That is the price at which the shares should get settled after mixing the original shares at the original market price with the the right issue shares which are at the discounted price. So you have 3 shares, original shares, at a original market price of 3.6, that's a cum right price, that works out to 10.8, and you are getting 1 more share at a discounted price of 2.8. So the total value of 4 shares is 13.6. So per share value is 13.6 divided by 4, which is 3.4. Don't forget, whenever you have a right issue, to work out the bonus fraction. How to work out the bonus fraction? Divide the cum right price by the ex right price. So cum right price is 3.6, ex right price is 3.4, and that gives you a bonus fraction of 1.06. And the weighted average number of shares, please note that to work out the weighted average number of shares, we need to take the shares before the right issue and make the necessary adjustment for the bonus element. Why? Whenever there is a bonus element, it's assumed that those shares are there throughout the life of the company. So you had 1 million shares into the bonus fraction of 1.06, then into 6/12. And after the bonus issue, it's 1,333,333 shares into 6/12. That gives you 1,196,667 shares. EPS, of course, earnings divided by the weighted average number of shares. Diluted EPS, what will you do? You will adjust the earnings for the diluted effect. You also will adjust the number of shares for the diluted effect. Don't forget, in the case of convertible debt, when you adjust the earnings, you should take it after tax. But in the case of convertible preference shares, you don't adjust for tax. Share options, earnings are not adjusted at all. If I also briefly go through IAS 32 and 39, IAS 32 deals with classification of financial instrument, and you are expected to analyze the financial instrument into which instruments should be classified as debt and which instruments should be classified as equity. Very simple rule is that you go by the substance of the terms that are given in the financial instrument, and if the terms indicate there is any sort of obligation to transfer anything, then it becomes an obligation, which means a financial debt. Whereas if you don't have any obligation under unfavorable situations, then it will remain as an equity. Hybrid instrument is an instrument which is combination of debt and equity. Please note that the examiner has done this. He has thrown in elements of IAS 32-39 inside group accounts also. Now, if you get a hybrid instrument, you have to separate that into debt element and the equity element, and expect a question like that in this current exam. How can you separate the total value into a debt element and the equity element? The only way to do that is to, if you have the total value, you can value the debt, and then from the total you minus the debt, then you get the equity. So if the examiner gives you the details regarding debt instrument, you come out with a valuation for that by considering the future obligations and discount at the rate available for similar instruments which are non-convertible, and then after that take the present value of that future cash flow to be the value of debt, and deduct that from the total to arrive at the equity. Briefly, if I go through the IAS 39, as you know, IAS 39, as per IAS 39, you need to classify the financial asset into 4 groups: fair value through P&L, loans and receivable, held for maturity investment, and available for sale investment. Fair value through P&L, mainly all those instruments which are held for trading purpose, or all other instruments which are or mainly derivatives which are basically managed on the basis of fair value. Loans and receivables involves investment in non-quoted instrument, which is basically one company giving a loan to another company, which may be transferred to a third party or may not be transferred. Held to maturity is all the financial instruments which you are going to hold on till the maturity date. Available for sale is anything else which didn't fit into the previous 3 categories. What you have to know is the initial measurement of each of these financial instruments is at fair value. For subsequent measurement, and depends on whether it is fair value through P&L or loans and receivable or held to maturity or available for sale investment. In the case of fair value through P&L and available for sale, subsequent measurement is always at fair value. Loans and receivable and held to maturity is at amortized cost method. In the case of the first category and the last category, you better note that there can be gain or loss at every balance sheet date. If it is fair value through P&L, gain or loss is taken to the income statement, whereas if it is available for sale, it is taken to the other components income statement. My dear students, that is the summary of the entire syllabus that I can cover within the time period given. And last bit of advice that I need to give you before you go into the exam. I always say this, when I went into my exam, I always was totally realized, particularly in the case of the strategic level. At that time I was a strategic level lecturer, and then at the same time a foundation level student, and as a result of that I actually couldn't study very well. So I was very much under pressure 1 month before the exam, and trust me, what matters is the way you handle yourself from probably say from today to the exam day. You need to remain very positive. The best way of learning is do some group studies. Whatever you know, you teach another friend. Whatever your friend knows, try to learn from that. That's the best way of learning, trust me. And when you go into the exam, we go with a positive framework of mind. I mean, the important thing is that if you have a positive attitude, and if you are an average student who can get 45 marks, with positive attitude actually can get another 10 marks, which is 45 plus 10 is a pass marks. Whereas you have the negative attitude, 45 minus 10, it will be a 35, which is a fail marks. So my best piece of advice is that remain very positive. Don't ever say things like, I'll study a lot more next time, I get prepared more next time, I do more question next time, or don't say that, look, I'll sit for the exam next time. It should be the coming exam, and feel confident and remain positive, and then face the exam, and I'm sure that you can make it. Wish you all the best, and God bless you.